I originally wanted to say appearances are not important at all. And I was kind of pushed by a friend who said, really, because, whatever it is for me, like with the tie-dye or the beads or whatever, it looks like you do put a little bit of time and energy into your own appearance. So I was challenged, and I realized that where it goes bad is when we become sort of obsessed with this preoccupation with ourselves. So no, I don't think there's anything wrong with looking good, with appearing attractive. Where we go astray is this self-preoccupation. So an example would be somebody who looks, I'm thinking of, a businesswoman who pulls out her credit card in Nordstrom's, but is done with it in 15 minutes, might spend less time and energy on her appearance than I do at my thrift stores looking for the perfect accessory to go with this or that. Yeah. So I think that when we look at the time and the resources that we pour into ourselves, that's a pretty good barometer of how we're doing. I think even though we know in our heads and our hearts that we are new creations, that we live in this culture in which we're bombarded by images of the perfect woman. And so I feel like we live in that tension between what we believe and the reality of being squeezed by the impact that these images have on us. I think that little voice that hisses, "There's something inherently wrong about you," is often followed by sort of the deceiver's whisper, "There's something you can do to be acceptable. There's something that you can grasp or purchase to finally be acceptable." I think that what discipleship looks like is living into trusting that God will meet our needs. And I think that we err when we decide to take things into our own hands, to satisfy ourselves, to soothe ourselves with all of these sort of other options. It feels to me like Jesus's encounter with Satan in the wilderness, where he's offered this sort of array of possibilities, but finally says, "I will trust in what God provides." And I think that's what the path of discipleship looks like for us as well. I really believe that God gave us bodies to love God and love other people. So I think we see that most clearly in the person of Jesus. Jesus is sort of the visible image of God. And yet I feel like we can really see who we're supposed to be when we look at the physical body of Jesus, when his hands feed people, when his eyes see people who aren't otherwise seen, when his ears really listen to people who aren't heard, when his knees bend in prayer. I think that is what bodies are for. So we see that most clearly in the person of Jesus. And then we figure out what that looks like in our own lives. And in our lives, it might mean shoveling for an elderly neighbor. It might mean holding, a friend's baby who's got colic, whatever it is. When we use our bodies to love God and other people, our bodies are doing what they were made for. As I began to think about bodies, the first thing I wanted to say is that bodies were given by God for function. And in my mind, I was trying to make a distinction between our culture's insistence that bodies were made just to be viewed, as opposed to maybe a more, biblical understanding that God really gave us bodies to love and serve others. But as I was thinking about it, I realized that anything that I say about bodies and the reason God gives bodies also has to be true for my friends with disabilities. And that really helped me. So all of a sudden, it couldn't be just about function anymore, although that's important. And that's kind of how I came to the realization that bodies really are given for relationship. And I'm thinking of a teenage friend whose body is severely compromised, and yet it's that body that allows him to be in relationship with other people. And so in that respect, his body is good because he's able to be in relationship. I have realized the importance of doing it with a friend. because when it's just me, I get stuck in my head, I fail. And yet I think that when I do the journey with others, we're both strengthened. For a while I had, I call it a body buddy, but I had a hair buddy for a while. It's like she had sworn off, $150 highlights with her hairdresser. Another friend decided not to buy clothes for 1 year. And that had been something that had been on my heart for a while. I didn't want to do it. But when I saw her doing it, I said, yeah, I want to be a part of that and do that with you. And so the support of friends kind of on that journey has meant the world to me. And it really is what I encourage other women to be about, because in the end, sort of what we consume, where our attention is with what we eat, what we buy, what we wear, is a matter of discipleship. And to me, that's kind of exciting that there are these very practical ways that we can live out discipleship with one another.